Welcome to ASUG News. I'm Gina Marchese. I have with me here new ASUG board members, been their first year. I'll introduce you here to Keith Sturgill, is the CIO of Eastman Chemical. Welcome.
Morning.
We have Sherryanne Meyer. She's the manager of IT and HR applications at Air Products and Chemicals.
Good morning.
And Dave Wascom, he's the VP of IT and the CIO at Summit Electric.
Morning, Gina.
Welcome.
Thank
So I
you.
thought it would be interesting today to share as veteran volunteers with ASUG, longtime SAP customers, but relatively new board members. This year marks your first term as ASUG board members. And I wanted to pose a question, how has your board experience been, particularly relating to the fact that you've been volunteers or been in the trenches, and this is sort of a new elevated role for you. And maybe Sherry, I'll start with you.
Well, in a lot of ways, it's the same. I mean, you're working with your peers, and you still have the same passion you had before about everything. You still want to be excited and engaged about something, and there's a sense of responsibility, right? And in other ways, it's a little bit different because you're looking at the ASUG community and SAP through a wider lens. And so your sense of accountability is much larger. It's a learning curve for me personally, I think. It's a big responsibility. It's kind of like a parent-child relationship. When you have a child and you think, oh my God, am I doing everything right? I mean, I think that's how I feel very often.
That's great. Keith, Dave, do you have anything to add?
I tell you, I would echo what Sherryanne said, that it's amazing how similar, but at the same time is so vastly different, because the level of engagement and collaboration that you have with SAP and our partners, it's a much more strategic engagement. The issues that you're discussing, the issues that you're working on for the membership community are at a much higher level and have much broader impact and much broader reach.
And in your role, Keith, please, yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, the perspective is different. As Sherryanne said, trying to optimize the whole and do what's best for the overall membership, which, as you know, ASUG is a huge organization. So I think that's the primary difference that I would see.
And while you say that, I wonder too, how has being a board member affected your executive role at Eastman?
Yeah, it's been a great experience. It's been a great first year. If I step back and take a look, it's more around having a chance to network with peers in different industries, in public sector, different geographies, which is not always easy to do. So that helps me grow as a leader. It helps me help Eastman's business for the fact that I talk with someone in the construction industry, or I talk with someone in public sector. Their perspectives are different, and perspective helps us.
It's really helpful. I think people have a misperception of what it's like to be on the board. I've heard myself that it's often perceived that you're not in touch with the product. And so what would you say if someone challenged that opinion of the fact that, well, you're board members, you're over here, we're using the product every day?
Well, first and foremost, we're all volunteers. We're here because of our passion for SAP and supporting the community of SAP users. The fact that we're on the board doesn't change that. It just gives us a broader exposure and a broader reach on how to make that work for us and work for the community.
That's great. And Sherry, we talked a lot about influencing SAP. I know in your volunteer role in the SIG community, the HCM SIG community, you've probably had an experience through an influence council or have ushered your membership into influence. How do you see influence at the board level? Do you see it a different?
It's the same, yet different. Okay, so I see the board and a lot of activities that Bridget does and the ASUG headquarters does as really enabling the influence in the various communities. I see all the mechanics now, and I really appreciate that. And from a board level, we're meeting with executives of Sanjay Poonen, Steve Winter, others throughout the week, and you're getting that higher level insight into what the strategy of ASUG is, working together with SAP and where SAP is going, and you can see that we're really working very hard at a macro level and influencing SAP's direction.
How would you feel, Keith, would you believe that the influence results are tangible? I mean, are you seeing that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you believe that the influence as a result of ASUG activities with SAP are actually tangible? Is it really tangible at the member level?
Absolutely. I think the level of influence of ASUG in SAP's direction has never been greater. Having been able to sit in on the conversations firsthand, I can tell that senior executives within SAP are genuinely interested in the input of ASUG and what the members think about a product direction or a future direction. So the influence is very much tangible.
Now, what would you say, I'll pose this to all of you, is one of the biggest misconceptions about being on the ASUG board? And you're laughing first, so I'll give it to you, Dave.
Thank you, thank you. It's, obviously it's very easy to look above and say, all right, what's the board actually doing to contribute? It's more, they go a lot of meetings, a lot of activities, they don't really seem to do anything. It's really pleasantly surprising to me how much activity we actually are able to drive and how much influence we can have with SAP and the engagement that we have with the executive level of SAP and how that does have a marked and positive impact for the ASUG community at large.
Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, I don't know about misconceptions, but I can tell you in my first year there, it's a group of people that are dedicated to representing the ASUG community, without a doubt. It's a group of people that genuinely like to work together and to move the organization forward. And if I think about where the organization has been and where we are now, we're in a very good place. And one of the challenges I think we have coming up is how do we define that next level of effectiveness for ASUG, and what are the things we're going to do to move in that direction. So it's an exciting place to be right now.
I think that's insightful feedback. And Sherry, I'll pose this next question to you, particularly because I believe you're probably one of the longest term volunteers we've had, with great history and seniority, and I love that. You all came on at the board level right in the middle of ASUG's transformation. And I wonder, particularly because as customers and longtime volunteers, what is your perspective of how that transition has gone and what remains ahead in your new term for 2012, 2013?
Well, I saw it from an outside lens first, right, before I came onto the board, and noticed a lot of very positive changes and a lot of momentum. So much has been happening. There's been so much effort, and I really, as a volunteer not on the board, I didn't know where all that momentum came from or who all was doing the work. I have to tell you, I was shocked to learn that there's only like 50 people in headquarters. Yes. I remember my first visit to Chicago and walking in and going, this is it? All this stuff comes out of this small group. So that's impressive. And then the level of dedication of the rest of the board members, and I can't speak for myself because I've only been a year, I'm still learning, but the rest of them, what they've been through the past several years in bringing ASUG forward, a tremendous amount of work. I don't think people realize the amount of work that goes into that.
Right. And so for my last question, I'll pose it to all of you. What are you looking forward to in your next term? The ASUG board many years ago used to be structured where each of you had a particular area of ownership. Maybe someone owned influence, maybe someone owned communities, but you're really working more as a team. So what are you looking forward most to, particularly because we've passed transformation, we're moving forward with new information, new transformation, we've gotten to the point of investment. So where do we go next?
Well, I think you touched on it. The transformation process never really ends for us. As we've seen this week, and as we see from SAP, there's some fundamental changes going on in the SAP ecosystem and SAP landscape. And how do we remain relevant? How do we remain effective in the influence and in the networking and the education for our membership? And so that's never going to change. And the fact that we're able to contribute and help guide that and direct that is a huge opportunity for all of us.
That's great. Keith, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. I'm really looking forward to having a meaty, strategic discussion about what's next. What are we specifically going to target? How are we going to measure our progress? And one of the things that I would like to bring to the board is let's start segmenting maybe the ASUG membership to think about where a customer is in the SAP journey, and make sure that we're addressing segments at every level of that journey, because we're a broad group. We're in different places, and we want to see everyone move along the journey, and ASUG be part of that journey with them.
That's great. And Sherry?
I think that's an excellent point, because as I came up through my SAP journey, the big thing was moving to ERP-based systems and moving to one system globally, and we've done that. Most of us have done that really, really well now. And so what's next? And I think Bridget talked about it in her keynote, right, about change and managing change. And one of the things I'm personally looking forward to as part of the board is working with June Kessick on the influence model. We had some conversations earlier this week with SAP and with June about customer engagement initiatives and how to get the word out to the community more so they know that these initiatives do exist, SAP is interested, engaged, and put the mechanics in place to get people volunteering to do that kind of stuff.
It is phenomenal insight. Really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. Thank you, Keith and Sherry and Dave. Thank you from ASUG News. Please visit ASUG News online at asugnews.com for access to replay of broadcasts, certainly the blogs by the co-editorial team of Courtney and Tom, and thank you for joining us.